All right, so in this video, we're gonna be reviewing 4 rules that make or break your successful ClickUp setup. And it took me years to figure this out because I was trying to think what is the difference between those successful projects and those unsuccessful ClickUp implementations that I had. In some of them, people just loved ClickUp. They couldn't live without ClickUp, while in others, people just couldn't literally stand ClickUp. You know, they hated it, the platform. Again, in both cases, I was helping companies implement it, so I was trying to think, what did I do right in the successful project? Well, what did I do wrong in those unsuccessful projects? And this is where these 4 rules came from. Right, so let's get started with the rule number 1, which is called process first, not product first. And again, with business software and ClickUp in particular, we're getting so obsessed with all the features and functionalities. And honestly, myself, as I'm kind of familiar with the platform and I know a lot of features and functionalities, it's very easy for me to get attracted by those new features, to get attracted and obsessed with all the little details and ClickUp functionalities and features that it gives to us, that I'm kind of losing focus of why do I even bother implementing ClickUp inside the businesses that I'm working with. And most of the time when you're working with ClickUp, again, you're so obsessed about a specific feature, let it be workload of you, or let it be ClickUp automations, whatever, or maybe AI features. Again, we're getting so much focused on those features that we forget the main purpose of ClickUp. And again, the reason why I'm saying the process first is because we're not trying to make our business work the way ClickUp tells us to do the things, right? We're trying to make ClickUp help us do the way we do work, just do it better, faster, or whatever the case might be. This is why changing that perspective, and instead of looking at ClickUp from the functionality and feature perspective, we're looking at ClickUp from our business perspective, asking the question, how do we do work, and how does ClickUp help us do this work better? And again, this is where the process word comes into play, because in reality, the main thing that kind of differentiates us from other people who are doing the same thing, let's say you're doing social media or you're doing providing some other services, right? There are probably a bunch of other companies who are doing the same thing, but you're saying I'm better. The reason why you're saying you're better in most cases is because we're doing things differently, right? We're doing things and delivering things differently. In our company, things are done differently from our competitors, and this is how we differentiate us from the rest of the companies. So instead of focusing on the product and ClickUp and doing things like everyone else does inside that platform, why don't we ask the question of how do we do work first? And this is where the processes come into play, because processes basically let us outline and understand and determine the way we're doing work. It's kind of a communication tool to tell everyone and to get everyone on the same page of how things are done in this company. And then this process is basically gonna dictate how ClickUp can help us do our work inside this processes better, faster, or again, whatever the case might be. So again, instead of focusing and getting obsessed with the product itself, leave it to the ClickUp team, right? They need to get obsessed with their product. They need to know about all their features and worry about the functionalities and all that stuff. Our worry should be about how our businesses function and how ClickUp can help us make our businesses work better. We're gonna go into the second rule. And recently I had a conversation with a company and they were like, Ilya, we need your help implementing ClickUp. We need to get it done for the whole company. We need to roll it out for all the departments, and we need to get it done by the end of the year, which is like 4 or 5 weeks. So we can start 2026 fresh, we can nail it, achieve all our goals. You know, and I was thinking about this and I'm hearing all these things over and over again. People trying to extract value from ClickUp as fast as possible. And I absolutely understand the reason, right? You've heard about ClickUp being this ultimate productivity platform, or ClickUp helping companies, you know, achieve their goals, or ClickUp replacing all the tools that are becoming them one platform. And again, you're rushing into extracting that value from the platform by trying to implement it for everything at once. And I've done these mistakes many times myself. This is why the second rule is called phased, which means that we need to phase out our ClickUp implementations, and instead of doing it all for the whole company, we're trying to pick a single process based on the first rule, right? A single process, and implement ClickUp for that specific process first, and then kind of move on to the next process. Now, believe me, I've made this mistake of big bang rollouts of ClickUp many times. I think the main reason why I did this was, again, because I was very focused on the ClickUp functionalities and ClickUp features that companies were excited about, right? And I wanted to implement this feature and that feature, and I was trying to say, all right, the whole company company use this specific functionality of ClickUp. When in reality, the main thing that matters and the main thing ClickUp implementations works, at least based on my experience with ClickUp, it's that you have to extract this value little by little from ClickUp. Again, ClickUp is not going to turn in that one platform that replaces them all overnight or over 4 weeks. It has to be done step by step. And basically, focusing on one process at a time, right? On one piece and part of your business at a time helps you to, again, phase out the implementation and extract that value little by little. And I know one of the main concerns that people might have is that, look, like we have, I don't know, 2 months we need to get ClickUp to work for our business. If we phase it out and if we implement it for one process at a time, it's going to take us months. It can take us a year, and people getting afraid of it. But let me tell you this, based on my own experience, and again, based on the projects that I've had, most of the time when you're trying to make ClickUp work for the whole company at once, it's gonna probably take you the same amount of time as if you were to phase it out into different processes and again, build one process inside your ClickUp at a time. And again, that's based on my experience and in the projects that I led, but I can tell you that again, the best value that you can extract from ClickUp happens when you're phasing out this implementations and you're implementing step by step and kind of moving your company and letting ClickUp support your company little by little, but not by implementing everything at the same time. All right, moving on to the third rule, which is simplicity. And again, this might sound very, very simple as the rule itself, right? It's like obvious, but for me, it was hard to understand because many times when I was getting obsessed, as I mentioned multiple times in this video, I was getting obsessed and excited about many ClickUp features. The systems that I was building were overly complex. I was involving a lot of parts of ClickUp. People were getting confused when they started using this system. So I understood that basically the main problem with that was that I had a different focus, right? As we discussed during the first rule, which is the process first, not product first, that we need to ask the question from the business perspective, not from the product perspective. The same happens in this rule for simplicity. In order to build a simple system your people are going to use, we need to start asking the questions from our business perspective. And instead of saying, oh, I want this cool feature to be used by everyone in the team, we need to say, what are actually features and functionalities that our business requires in order for us to do the work better? And again, this leads us into creating those simple systems that our people and our teams are enjoying using. And again, the main thing here is that no matter how cool the system looks or no matter how cool the system is on paper, the main value that you're extracting from the system is when your team or you yourself is using the system. If it is simple, it's going to be much easier to extract that value. And this is the main point of this rule. And if you're thinking about overcomplicating things or maybe, involving multiple functionalities into the system, I suggest that you start simple first. You can always build things on top of the simple system as soon as your team adopted the platform and kind of got used to using ClickUp. But again, first start simple, and then if you only need to add those complexities and those functionalities, and you can always build that on top of that. But in order to extract the value, start simple and overcomplicate later. And so now we're coming to the last rule in this video. And this rule took me a while to understand, and that's probably one of the main reasons why I had those successful and unsuccessful projects, why I had those happy teams that loved ClickUp and those angry teams that hated ClickUp. And the main reason why I believe is because those people who loved ClickUp actually got involved into the process of designing, testing, and building the system long time before they actually started using the system. Rule number 4 is called involving, which means that we have to involve people who are going to be the end users and the end stakeholders of that system in order for them to adopt the system long term. Now, many times, I build this and designed this ClickUp system, and I came to the team and I said, here you go, this is the ClickUp system I built, now we can start using it tomorrow. And people would just look at me and okay, let's give it a shot. But at the end of the day, what ClickUp becomes is, with this approach, it becomes this additional platform, additional step in their day-to-day work, right? It's like 4:55 p.m. and they log into ClickUp and they just basically move tasks around just to make Ilya or their boss happy, or business owner or business manager happy. And again, it doesn't really provide any value. The main reason we're involving people into the process of building, designing, and testing ClickUp systems before we start using them is because we want them to adopt the system in order for us to extract the value from ClickUp, in order for us to see the actual return on investment of ClickUp platform. So when I done a couple of unsuccessful projects, it kind of clicked, and I was like, all right, in those successful projects, I just involved people. I just asked questions. I just just made them part of the process. And when it came to actually starting using the system or deploying the system and actually, logging into the system, they were already familiar with all the components. Maybe they asked a couple of questions, maybe they, had some confusions or something like that. But at the end of the day, they already knew what they were doing. And the main thing here is that most of the time, again, and from my standpoint, knowing the system and knowing all the functionalities, it seems so easy for people to transition and start using ClickUp from day one. And in most cases, many team members who are using ClickUp, again, never heard of ClickUp before. So this involving step not only allows us to make the adoption simpler, but it also allows us to explain to people how their day-to-day work is going to change. And I think this is kind of the biggest component of any system implementation, because at the end of the day, as I said, no matter how cool the system is or how great the design of the system is on paper, if people don't use it, we're not extracting value out of it. So again, involving people from the very beginning of the project and involving them into designing, testing, building the system in ClickUp allows us to extract that value much, much better. This was my voice within telling you all these hard lessons that I've learned over the years. I hope you don't make the same mistakes, and I hope this kind of helps you make your ClickUp system and ClickUp implementation successful for your business or for the team you're working with. If you want to learn more about how to make ClickUp work for your business in particular, check the links in the description below. I have some additional material there. If you have any questions about either of those 4 rules or any issues that you're struggling with your ClickUp, post them in the comments below. I'll be glad to reply to them. And again, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next video very, very soon.